Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, depending on when and where you are watching this podcast. I bring you greetings from the United States in the great state of Michigan, better known as the Mitten State. And you are watching Get Into It, live chats with Kimberly Willis. And I am your host, Kimberly Willis, and your wellness advocate. And I am here to give you different products and services, such as my books, such as fragrances, and such as things like this, such as my Survivor's Wear line. So if you want to know a little bit more about me, you can go right there on survivorscorner.net or on IG at Survivors Corner, Facebook, or even on YouTube, or if you're watching on LinkedIn, you got me already. So I just wanted to hop into this show because this is going to be fire today. Please make sure that you like, comment, and share this podcast, because this is really special to me, because we really talk about different cancer conversations with survivors, caregivers, doctors, and more. So just make sure you kind of communicate with us, because we're really ready to get into it. So today's guest is special. This is my husband. We're both cancer survivors, and I'm going to read a little bit of his bio and then bring him on. It says that Pastor L.T Willis Sr. was born and raised in Oak Park, Michigan, just north of Detroit. He is the lead pastor of New Jerusalem. He is the husband to Kimberly and the father of 4 awesome children. Pastor Willis is a servant leader and is always focused building faith and community outreach. Pastor Willis loves God and loves people. He believes in transforming lives with the word of God, one soul at a time. After graduating high school in 2002, Pastor Willis went on to earn both a Bachelor's of Science in Sociology, and that was from the University of Michigan, Dearborn. And he also got a master's in science and psychology degree from the University of Phoenix. Pastor Willis has also received training from Tennessee Valley Ministry Institute of Pastoral Counseling, and that is a mouthful, and is a certified Christian life coach through the North American Christian Counselors Association. Pastor Willis is also a published author and has written several self-help articles in the local newspapers on the Christian faith. Pastor Willis is a member of the NAACP Western Wayne County in Inkster, Michigan, and has continued to work as a behavioral consultant for over 15 years in the Metro Detroit area. So, y'all, I'm really excited to bring on my husband, Pastor L.T Willis.
Yeah, hello, wife. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to be your guest today. This is a little different, but I'm ready for it. It's a challenge, but I'm ready.
Yes, it really is different. I'm like low-key nervous. I don't know why, but we're just gonna have our conversation like we normally do at the house. We already have some viewers watching in. We got Deirdre Moody, who was just our guest last week. Hello, sis. Thanks for watching. So let's get into it. So I know you, but not everybody may know you. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Oh man, complicated man. No, I'm just a regular, ordinary dude, just trying to live my best life, life that God has given me, trying to be the best vessel that I can be to help bring people to Him. It took a while, but I would say for probably the last 15 years of my life, I've really been focused on being a better Christian and really trying to use my life and the talents that God has given me to create pathways to Christ. And that's really what it's been about. So obviously, you know me, I love family.
Mm-hmm.
You and the kids, and then just, our extended family members. I'm all about family. So, um, loving God, loving people, and then just kind of loving to enjoy myself with different hobbies and things like that. So, that's pretty much it. It's not complex.
It's good. When you preach, you always talk about going deeper. So I'm going to ask you to go deeper and tell us a little bit more about the hobbies that you like to do.
So, I've been an athlete all my life, so basketball is at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
Love to play basketball, and with my sons loving basketball as well, it kind of gives me that rekindled burn, so to speak, to get out there and try and hoop with the kids. Bowling is another one.
Mm-hmm.
Working out is a hobby, but it's like a diet for me too, and we'll get more into that piece later. And then just watching TV. A lot of people don't like to watch TV, but I like to watch TV because it gives me perspectives. I'm finding myself to be. I mean, this may seem weird to people, but I'm finding myself to be in this space now. We're both authors, but I'm finding myself to be in this space now where I'm watching different types of things. But I'm doing more than just looking at what's on the screen. I'm really trying to get into the director's mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different stage of my life, I guess, and trying to help on, some of the things that I've got, work that I'm working on in the future. So just really trying to understand like directors' mindsets and looking at that is giving me a whole different perspective on writing, and even just when preaching and teaching and lecturing and things like that.
Awesome. Before we dive into your testimony, this show is going to be a little bit different because normally I'm asking all the questions for my guest, but he's also going to put me in the hot seat. So you guys will have not only me firing questions, but he will be firing questions as well. So I'm really honored for you to get ready to share your testimony. Between the two of us, um, I'm more of the extrovert of the cancer journey, really sharing everything. Not that you don't share it as much, but you're just a little bit more reserved with it. So I'm really excited that people really get to hear your heart about your cancer journey, because yours was before me. So let's dive into it.
um, yeah. So my journey is unique, and it starts back to probably high school. And when we were playing ball in high schools, especially in the summer, one of the things that we would do is we would play shirts and skins wherever
Mm-hmm.
we were. I mean, you can be in a gym across the city. You can be, and at your school or wherever we were. We can be at the park, and guys would just take their shirts off, and I was always um, embarrassed to take my shirt off because I knew that I had these blotched areas on my back, which is
Mm-hmm.
where primarily this whole thing started. And at the time, my mom and my parents, we were under the impression that it was eczema.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I would go through the treatments with eczema, with the Aquaphor, the Cetaphil, the oatmeal baths, all of those things to try and, maintain the outbreaks, right, and the itching. And so I was always embarrassed, but eventually I grew bold and courageous to where I was like, oh, nobody out here looking at my skin.
Mm-hmm.
So I would get out there and just play ball. But then over time, I noticed that it began to get worse as far as the blotches. And then my skin started to be infected in other areas. So not just my back, my legs, my arms, my chest, just all over. And so we have been treating it for several years, even into my adulthood. We've been treating it for several years as eczema.
Mm-hmm.
Going to my dermatologist. At one point, we thought maybe it was contact psoriasis, but I was ordered for a biopsy in 2013. It's business as usual. My dermatologist said, "Hey, why don't you go down to Henry Ford, and I want the head of the dermatology to check you out." So once I got down there, they did the biopsy and called me back about 2 weeks later. And so, walking to the treatment center down there, the clinic, and I'm sitting in the room. And then her name was Dr. Curry. She came in she came into the room, and it was like a team of doctors with her. She came in and she sat on the stool. And I'm sitting there like, okay, why why are all these people in the room, right? And so I'm sitting there, and she, she becomes very professional, starts to talk really soft, as if she's about to break. I'm thinking, I'm expecting, oh, okay, you have psoriasis, or this is what you have, your contact dermatitis. She went on to say, well, you have, your biopsy came back, and there's skin cancer. So at that point, I just stopped to make sure I heard her right. Now, at this particular stage in my life, like, you heard about cancers. I think the breast cancer awareness movement was starting to gain momentum. We had participated in a few events at our previous church, so I was familiar with that kind of cancer, or like lung cancer, just things from before, but never really had this up close and personal. No one in my family, immediate family, had to battle with cancer. So I'm sitting there, and um, I remember the one, just an RN. She went and grabbed like the tissue as like I was getting ready to cry, and I'm like, I don't need that. And she was like, so this is your options. I'm going to refer you over to our specialist that deals with skin cancer down here in Ford. And I just took it all in because immediately I just I activated my faith. I was like, okay, God, this is weird, but I know you're gonna get me through it. I'm ultimately was focused on healing, right? So I got the diagnosis, and then obviously I called you and we talked about it and got home and really trying to process it all. And you always say that I'm not as transparent about my condition. That's not necessarily true. Like when I tell you all that the power of God is amazing, um, the Word of God gives us scriptures and passages to really get us through different seasons of our lives. And for me, the last, so I was diagnosed in 2013. So the last 9 years, 2 Corinthians 12 has been my root, because I prayed ever since 2013 for healing, daily for healing, to be healed of what is called mycosis fungitis. So it's basically it's a T cell lymphoma, what I've been diagnosed with. It's in the family of cutaneous cell lymphoma, which is a type of non-Hodgkin lymphoma. And so what happens is the T cell lymphocytes that we all have, which are white blood cells, they become malignant cancers. So it began to affect my skin. And so ever since then, it seems like, this is how the devil works. It seems like since the diagnosis, the disease went from like stage 1A to stage, now I'm in 2A. I've been in stage 2A for like 8 years. And so now it's like it's crazy how the brain works. It becomes like, oh my goodness, this is getting worse. Oh my goodness, right? But when I tell you that I don't really talk about it as much because I forget that this is what I'm living with. I'm reminded, obviously, when I'm looking at my body or whatever the case may be, or someone might say, hey, you got something on your arm here, what happened? But literally, y'all, it's a faith like I've never have experienced, that I literally just move around in my life, kind of forgetting that this is what I have. So, being connected with you, I'm more intentional about addressing it because we want to bring awareness, and we want men to know that it's first of all, go to the doctors, right? But secondly, that you don't have to be ashamed of whatever you're trying to live with, whatever kind of cancer it is. There is help for it. Early prevention is key. And so ever since 2013, I've been in treatment with topical steroids and ultraviolet light. I was going to work 3 times a week. On my way to work 3 times a week, I would go and get in the light box at the clinic to get phototherapy. And let me tell you, $90 for about 2 minutes of light. It is absolutely crazy. And so one of the positive things about having this melanin in my skin is my doctor, who was absolutely incredible. Dr. Chauncey McGard at Henry Ford is absolutely incredible. he says if you can just go south a couple times over the summer, he says your skin responds so well to the ultraviolet light. So if you can get that natural light a couple times, just go out and bathe. He said don't put
Mm-hmm.
sunscreen on. He says because of your, the melanin, your particular skin type, you're okay to bathe in the sun. And so, we make frequent trips, down to the southern part of the world, um,
Florida.
for that particular reason. I mean, who doesn't like Florida, number one? But God set it up so that I can get down there, right? So ever since 2013, we've been making sure that we're able to get south. And even here, when we have like good weather, like a day like today, it's hot, but the sun sits differently, so it's not as
Mm-hmm.
effective. But I still get out there. Sometimes I'm embarrassed because I'm like, I don't want my neighbors to think I'm some dude that's out here walking around with my shirt off. Um, but however, it does help. I've seen changes. And then lately, the last year, basically, I've been on this drug called Valcor, which is a chemotherapy drug. It's a topical ointment that that I have to use daily, and I'm seeing results. So if it had not been for having to put the medication on, I would literally forget that this is something that I deal with. And it's not to say that I'm naive to what it is. I understand it. But it's just where my faith is. And it
Yeah.
kind of has been that God, if you're not going to take it from me, then you're going to give me enough grace to live with it. And that's just really how I move. So I don't always talk about it just because sometimes it just be in the back of my head. But certainly I'm grateful for this opportunity now to just get out and share my story. And so that's kind of it. I'm still praying to God for healing. I'm still believing God is going to work through medicine. And ultimately, I believe that He's going to work without the medicine. The good thing about one of the positive things about mycosis fungitis, is that the lifespan is not affected by it.
Mm-hmm.
With it being managed at a stage 2, hopefully a stage 1, and basically the stages change based upon the percentage of your body that it covers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, while those old cells burn away from the ultraviolet light, even though the spot there, it's not an active spot, so that doesn't count. So sometimes, I look at my arm, I'm like, oh my goodness, but there are old spots, so that's not active cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I can live a long life, but ultimately, I am believing God. I'm not putting God in a box. I'm believing that He can even deal with me and my little issue here, as well as those other people who are affected by this rare. This is a rare skin cancer, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's very rare, and so wouldn't it be befitting that me having to lead the Lord's church and and then be your husband and be your caregiver that I get this rare disease, but nevertheless, it doesn't affect me as I do
Yeah.
my day to day.
Thank you for sharing. This is we're getting closing out May, and May is part of Skin Cancer Awareness Month. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to make sure that I got you on in this month. And I just want to highlight some of the viewers that's watching our roses. We have Dr. Elisa Smith that says, Amen. Faith will get you through. We have Courtney Williams that is watching that says, thank God for that peace. We have Dr. Ingrid Wilson Johnson that said, getting the diagnosis, but not letting it consume you. We have Rhonda Glass that is watching. You guys are tuning in today. We also, she also said that thanks for sharing, because again, we know how powerful what sharing our testimony is. We got keep going. Love the transparency and bringing awareness. And we have Tanya Bankston that says, praise God, grace to live with it and believe for a total healing. This is an encouraging testimony. And, you have been living with this, like you said, for the last 9 years. So tell our roses a little bit more about what it's like. You highlighted some of it. You got the different light boxes that you have to go through, or really just trying to go south all the time. Some people just think we just want to go down to Florida. I mean, we do, but it's also for a medical purpose as well. So it's really important for us to get the sun. But even going down to your chemotherapy drugs that you apply nightly, explain to what is it like mentally and physically and emotionally, still having cancer 9 years later and ongoing until God says otherwise?
Well, I mean, like I said, I think the most um, daunting part of it, if that's even the right word, is the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just this journey, and more so your journey, because your journey has really educated us both and about cancer and about, okay, where did this even come from? Like, where does cancer come from, right? And looking at the different um, foods and just chemicals that we use, that we've been using. I'm 38 years old. You know what I'm saying? So who knows what I've used and et cetera, that may have caused or may have impacted, or whatever would have happened with these cells, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, it's applying the medicine, wanting God to heal, but then looking at the natural way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a good time to go into one of my hobbies, which is working out. A lot of people like, oh, you just, you want to, you want to get big. No, it's not. It's not really about that for me. I remember when you were going through chemo, and your doctor was saying, stay active. You
Mm-hmm.
want to stay active so that it doesn't bring you down as much. And for me, I just want to make sure I'm healthy that way. And then the eating. We never really knew the plant-based options that are out here, or even just watching salt intake and all these other things, right?
Right.
And learning how to, go on DASH diets. And I'm not yet there. I still struggle with that part of the eating, but I'm aware of it, and so living with it has caused me to be aware of what I eat, what I put in my body, what I use on my body. I'm very particular about what I use on my body, as far as soaps and lotions, and everything like that. I do use Refresh, because it is
It's
proven,
healthy.
it is healthy. So I use Refresh. Shout out to you for that fragrance. It smells very well, fellas. If you watch it, you got to get it. But honestly, it just helps me to think about what I eat. Even though sometimes I may have some weak moments in what I eat, but just what I eat, what I do, how active I am, and just keeping my mind going. So it takes care of me physically, emotionally. I'm not sitting home basking in my emotions. Why hasn't God healed me yet?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just continuing to go, and it goes back to the scripture. My grace is sufficient for you. So that grace is what gets me back.
Absolutely. Courtney says, okay, shout out. And she also said, I love it. Me and my husband wear it as well. Thank you guys for your support. All right, I'm going to turn it over to you. Go ahead and start firing me some questions.
Oh, that's it. I thought, man,
Yeah,
I had.
we're going to go back and forth. I'm going to let you do one and I do one.
So, what is it like being a caregiver?
I think it's natural for me to be a caregiver. With me just being a mother already, um, when we got together, we have a blended family. So um, just me being a nurturer is just already in my DNA. I used to have several dolls on my bed. I just always used to like to take care of things. Um, so to be a caregiver for your spouse is a little different, but still the same. I'm very cautious of uh things that you are exposed to. If the doctors are saying something, I really take it to heart. I really try to make sure that um the food that you get and have to consume, that is something that could be beneficial for all of us, because I think if we could all get the whole house healthy, I think that would be really good, instead of just only worrying about hey, are we worrying about blood pressure or cholesterol and things like that. um Also, I think as a caregiver, sometimes it can I want to say this. It could be hard to watch at times, because, I know what it's like on my end to be able to do different procedures and things like that. But, I don't know what it's like to go in a light box and have all these different rays on me for so many seconds and even up to a minute, having the itchy skin and the things that's peeling, or even just the mental part of it, of just always having to know that you have cancer, and to have to always have treatment, because sometimes dealing with the treatment is hard. I know I'm guilty. I don't always want to scratch. your back all the
That's
time.
so,
My arm goes numb with
see,
that. So it's
that's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to get to what it's like being a caregiver. So y'all, what you have to understand is that with the treatment with mycosis fungitis, right? You get the ultraviolet light as one of the methods, and since my skin responds to it, I really don't have to use Valcor, the chemotherapy drug, but it's a small dosage, so we're doing both at the same time to try and treat it a little more aggressively, just so we can get down to stage 1. It is not a curable cancer, unfortunately. So I will never go into remission until God says differently. So you having breast cancer, they removed the cancer. You went through radiation and surgery, so you're living in remission, right? No longer with cancer. That's not the case for me. So yes, I do have that. Like I said, it's in the back of my head. But when you go through the treatment part, so one of the things that happens once these cells are burned away, they itch. I mean, it's worse than chicken pox, y'all. If you ever had the chicken pox, they itch. I'm good, but I'm good for every other place except for the middle of my back. I cannot get my arms and my hands to get to the middle of my back. So I have a back scratcher. It's
I
around
bought
here
a few of
somewhere.
them from you
She
guys.
bought me a few back scratches, but all I asked, I thought she loved me enough, y'all.
Oh my
I thought she
gosh.
loved me enough to just rub and scratch my back when I go through treatment, and this child will fall asleep. She will say my arm hurt. So I just wanted to ask, what is it like being a caregiver? Because
Listen,
sometimes
you're not telling the whole story because, listen, like I have no problem scratching his back, guys. However, he wants it like 30 minutes to an hour. My arms can't handle that. My hands get tired, after the back and forth. So I bought a back scratcher. So when I get tired, he has assistance. Isn't that a great caregiver that not only that you have your spouse, but I have given you tools to help you on. That's what
you
being a
are
caregiver
resourceful.
is.
You are resourceful. Thank you for that.
Let's,
Another question.
mhm.
What is it like when you do tell someone your story and you share with them that we both have cancer or have had cancers or are survivors? What is it like for you emotionally to be able to have that conversation?
Um, Almost every single time, I would say about 100% of the time, people are always shocked when they say that we're both survivors. They're like, because you don't necessarily hear that all the time. You hear about one who's always the caregiver and one who's always the survivor, or different things that's going on in your life. You never really hear both a husband and wife that is are survivors and caregivers at the same time. So I always get the wow factor every time with that. Emotionally, I actually feel proud to say that. Not that I celebrate either of us having cancer. I celebrate for both of us surviving and how we're able to impact lives. So I believe that, there was no mistake why we got cancer. I believe that we have an assignment to do because of that, and to be able to impact people through their faith, through to help them to get closer to God, to show that, hey, we're just two Christians here who loves God, who believes that God will heal us and deliver us, and just to be able to just show them really how to walk through fire. So I think that is what I feel when I tell people, hey, both my husband and I has had cancer. So I'm actually kind of proud to share that. So let's flip it. What about you? What is it like? What about being a caregiver is hard for you? I know you don't have to scratch my back. So what what is it that you have to deal with as a caregiver?
Um, it's an honor to be a caregiver, right? Because you could not be here. So that's an honor. I think in your first couple years of survival, we going to events, and I think there was a young lady a couple years ago, right before the pandemic, who had the stage 3 and was your same age, and she survived on the other side. And I think that really changed things for me because it really made me think about how that you could not be here.
Yeah.
So it's an honor to be a caregiver. It was an honor when you were in active treatment. I think you shared this on the first episode of Survivor's Corner. But we went on the family reunion And I'm changing your tubes. Nobody
Oh
even knew
yeah.
about it except my mom, I think. And I'm changing your tubes, and we driving 8 hours across the country, just because you needed that. You needed to get away,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm glad we did, because we did have a good time. But it was an honor. The hardest for me being a caregiver is it's the mental spot,
Yeah.
um, because watching you the entire time through the, was it 12 rounds of chemotherapy, or
15.
14, 15 rounds of chemotherapy, the 6 weeks of radiations, the multiple surgeries. I saw you handle that with such courage, and it was heroic to just see you. I remember your down days were Thursdays, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, and I just watched you, how you rose to the occasion every Sunday. You talked about this in your book, how you, every Sunday, you were still leading worship for us. And I just watched, and I was, man, this woman is phenomenal. And what's hard for me now is after cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So the damage that was done to your good cells, and trying to really, reconfigure your makeup, and just seeing what was done, the asthma, the joint pain, the fatigue, like that is hard for me, because um, I really struggle with believing that the medicine is doing what it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we support, and I support treatment, right? I'm not one of those people that don't support treatment. Obviously, I'm encouraging treatment. I support treatment, but I do always pray for wisdom and discernment about, are you just throwing medication at me for other reasons? When I see that it's not helping,
Yeah.
over, we're not just talking about a couple of weeks, we're talking about a couple of years, right? So that's the hard part about being a caregiver, is when, you're being prescribed this and you have to take it,
Mm-hmm.
because you want to be healthy, you want to repair, but being, I'm just seeing what it does, and just the inconsistencies of it actually being effective. That's the hard part, of being a caregiver.
Yeah. I think that to add to my question about being a caregiver, I think it's the support that is phenomenal. I for in my cancer, you I just remember one of my down days, and you took the kids, because our kids didn't know at the time that I was diagnosed with cancer. So we are just trying to operate like normal, and I remember I was not feeling the best, and you just took the kids outside, and I had enough strength to just make it to the window and to be able to see you just play catch with them. And because I started chemo at the end of August, so this is early September now, and you're just playing catch with them. They're in school at this point, and that just meant everything to me. It still means everything to me now. So even though I have a lot of down days after active treatment, just the level of support that you give is unmatched. To be able to know that I'm still beautiful to you when I didn't have hair, when I do have hair, when I gained weight, when I lost weight, depending on whatever version that you got. Even mentally, I've changed as well. The way how I'm not the same Kim that I was prior to cancer, and you love me through all of that. I think that's one of the things that I think that is special about our marriage. And even Dr. Lisa said that it seems you both can relate to each other on a new level. And I'm sure it brings you closer to God together, depending on each other and holding each other accountable. You guys are great together. And Deirdre Moody, she said, there are side effects. Listen, I get them all. It's like whatever's on that list, I think I've hit them all. Rhonda Glass said, God is good and thankful. So I want to talk about, why do you think our marriage has survived us both having cancer, but then also to deal with the deaths in our family? To kind of give you guys perspective, when I had got cancer, both of my parents had also had cancer within that same year, and they died just shortly after, or during and shortly after of my active treatment. But also that same year, you lost your uncle as well. So we had three deaths in our family, in our immediate family, in 1 year. So explain, how do you think? I mean, I know the answer, and I'm pretty sure everyone can guess what the answer is. But what do you think? What are those special things that has helped us survive in our marriage with all these things that was thrown at us?
Well, It was our. I mean, we took vows, and and I say this now, even when I'm coaching or counseling couples, you have to be careful when you declare for better or for worse, because that there is true meaning behind that. So I was committed to God first. Me being committed to God, I'm committed to you, and I believe that there's a greater purpose for the pain. And so for me to give up on loving you, for you to give up on loving me, I think we forfeit and we abandon God's process that's going to lead to that manifestation of purpose, which is our destiny. And so we both focus on and we always say this to one another. There's a reason why life for us in this early part of our marriage is going like this. There is a reason. And, it's not for us to, be boastful. But it gets us through, because we do believe that, that God will put you through certain things if he trusts you to handle it.
Correct.
And I want to clear something up, because a lot of people are quick to throw this scripture out that God will never put more in you than you can bear. We cannot take that scripture out of context, because that has nothing to do with burdens. That has to do with temptation. All right. That we will be able to make a way out of temptation. That has nothing to do with trial and tribulation. Remember, the three Hebrew boys were in the fiery furnace. That was it. The fire was hot, right? The fire was hot. So we do go through moments where it seems unbearable, but we trust that there's a greater purpose. And I think that's what's held us together, that it binded us in love. But I also know there's a greater purpose that we look toward.
Absolutely. What else you got for me?
So, do you think that your journey, do you think that people get tired of hearing about it?
Yes and no. Sometimes, with the algorithms of Instagram and Facebook, you're in front of the same people. So those same people, I feel that may get tired of it. And the reason why I say that, and I'll be transparent with this, I'm not driven off of likes and comments. However, I do notice it. I do notice how people support other people. And we all do it. And it's not something that I just see others do. I think we all could be guilty of this, that if it's a celebrity or someone who is really influential in our lives, we are more likely to like and comment. But if it's someone local or someone who's even close to us, for whatever reason, we will look at the material and we won't like and comment. However, if you see that individual, they'll be able to run off everything that was on your page. So for me, I think that sometimes some individuals get tired of hearing my story, and then at one point it did kind of halt me at one point. But then I think that was just a trick of the enemy, thinking that my story, my assignment was completed, and it's not. I've learned to make sure that I'm right up in front of the right audiences, because I know that my pain has purpose, and there's a testimony to be shared amongst cancer survivors, people going through grief, people going through asthma, mothers, business, wives, first ladies. So many hats that I wear, and that's so many doors that I could actually walk through to talk through that. So it doesn't concern me anymore if I don't get the likes, comments, shares, or even views, because I do know that the right people are going to see it, because God has already allowed feedback. And I've heard how many lives that has been transformed about my story, about your story, and things that we do. So I'm no longer concerned about all of that.
So I asked that question because I don't think people realize how many hats you wear. I think they see what you're marketing, right? I think they see that. I think they see that from me. But they don't understand. People don't understand the different hats that we have to wear. And so when you're battling through treatment or post treatment, you still have to wear those hats.
Yes.
Um, you know, sometimes you do wonder, well, maybe people are just tired of the story, but you still
Mhm.
have to push on regardless, because it's about the seeds, and you sowing that right seed that can lead to an incredible harvest.
Yeah.
So I want to say this. I'm not going to ask you any more questions because this is your show. But I wanted to say how incredibly proud I am of you for having this show. I see greater things than just a Facebook Live for this, and I'm just watching you behind the scenes and seeing what you're doing. I am so proud of you. You are a
Thanks, honey.
phenomenal person.
Thanks, honey. I appreciate it. Courtney Williams said, I love the awareness that you bring breast cancer because there may have been one person that needed to hear or see it. My friend's mother was recently diagnosed and purchased your book for her, and she read it and has a new drive while going through her treatment.
It
That's
is.
that's what I'm
That's it.
saying.
That's it.
We also said, continue to tell your story. You never know who you can touch. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what this is all about. It's not necessarily about me. It's about, or even about you. It's really about the lives that we get to impact with all of this. We got Kimmy White here. Hey, sweetie, how are you? Thank you for watching. I love it. So I want to talk a little bit more about your perspective of how cancer affects um, everything in your life, kids, ministry, your job. So explain to us what it was like to, as a survivor, as well as a caregiver, to juggle all these different hats while going through a storm.
Yeah. So sometimes you're unaware of your temperaments when you're in these particular challenging
Hmm.
seasons. I did have a few coworkers who I did not share what was going on. But by the time we kind of finished out the, working with the school, so the school year, um, I finally kind of shared what was going on. And they said to me, we could tell something was different. We didn't put it on social media. You know what I'm saying? So that my temperament, I was probably a little edgy, a little less tolerant with nonsense,
Hmm.
um, and really just dialed in and focused on making sure that I was doing what I was supposed to do, as far as being a caregiver, or that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as far as myself. I think that there is a unplanned fatigue that comes with having cancer. When you are on your schedule, and for me, being bivocational, full-time pastor and full-time, behavior consultant, it's always something to do. It's always something to do, and I think with the cancer and with the treatment, just the side effects, it just there's an emotional fatigue that comes out of nowhere, and then sometimes there's a physical fatigue that comes
Hmm.
out of nowhere. It just manifests. You're tired, can't explain it, but then I'm back up and I'm going. So I just think that from my perspective, it has affected me in kind of unplanned ways. Basically, to answer your question.
Yes. We actually got a question from one of our viewers. She said, what advice would you give other caregivers taking care of loved ones, especially in the area of patients? I'll let you answer that first.
Well, so I think first of all, you have to be real with yourself. What can you tolerate? All right. What can you commit to? And you have to really answer that question and mean it.
Hmm.
If you can commit to driving to all the doctor's appointments, then commit to that. If you can commit to, coming over and cooking a meal, then commit to that. Don't commit to more than you can do.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, I am not the cook in the house. All right, I say this all the time. Everybody don't need to be the cook. Somebody has to eat, and so that's my role. Um, is to eat, and so I'm not the cook. So when Kim was going through chemo and radiation, and when she, even now sometimes she's tired, I would reach out to other people. Some of her best friends came over and cooked. Folks came over and bought platters. It just being resourceful. I recognize I wasn't about to sit up here and try and watch a recipe and try and actually put it together, burn the house down. I'm adding extra stress, and I'm not able to, properly be a caregiver. So when it comes to patients, my advice would be commit to what you know you can do. All right. And at the end of the day, you have to remind yourself that if this person can do it for themselves, they would. So there's those reminders that I think helps in the area of patience.
To piggyback off what you said, I think it's very important to create a system. And that ties into, only doing what you can do. I know when it was time to take care of my mom, I was literally still going through active treatment. So I had to develop a system between my siblings on what I can do. Sometimes I drove, like, we live in Oakland County and my mom lived in Wayne County. So to be able to drive so many miles to get to her, to then take her to her doctor's appointment, to then drop her back off, and then to go to my own radiation treatments was a lot. And to then be able to feed her and especially during her last days was, just to really care for her. It took a lot. And I had to learn how to make sure I took care of myself. If I can redo things over again, I would have took a little bit better care of myself, especially going through active treatment. I know towards the end, I had stopped eating. It's difficult to see a loved one to start to deteriorate. And everyone handles grief a different way. Some people actually eat more. I'm one of those that that don't want to eat. I lose my appetite. But I would have I just would have just took care of myself mentally a little bit more just during that time. So it definitely takes a village, that Dr. Johnson had just said. Just make sure you have a system. If it's meals, use people. There's people that's meal preps. There's people who do cleaning systems. You can't do everything on your own. So yes, there's certain things that you may have to do for your loved one, but use those resources. And there's some free resources out there. So even if you can't afford it, check with the hospitals, check with different support groups that has those additional resources to help you with those things, especially if it's transportation. If you're unable to take your loved one to the doctors, use a transportation service. One of the things that I laugh about now that, my husband sometimes drove me to my treatment. Sometimes it was my mom and even my sister at one point. But about over half the time, I actually drove myself because I wanted to make sure that he had his outlet. He still had his job again. My mom, God rest her soul, she used to think where we lived, it was like Ohio. So it was a lot for her to drive out each and every time. So I would drive myself, and which is not easy to do because you're on so many drugs, you're tired and amped up at the same time. However, use those resources to help you with those things. Excuse me. And Deidre said, yeah, that's excellent advice. Absolutely. So we're starting to near down um, at the end of the show, and it just flew by. I really enjoyed having you here. Before we get into the things that you're going into, tell me some things that you do for self-care. We know one of them is the shows.
Self-care, working out, getting outside, just
Riding the old school.
Whether it's cutting the grass or just being out there. I am in this season of life trying to be a little more hands-on. So just trying to figure out different things like DIY stuff. I've kind of been into lately. Yes, riding in the old schools.
Tell me Jeep, what type of ride you got.
The Jeep. So we riding in the '67 Plymouth Fury with a couple of my buddies. Also riding in the Jeep with the doors off is kind of a new thing. It's just a whole vibe to that, man. I really didn't know what that was about. But yeah, so just reflecting. I think some people avoid or not avoid, but they don't really understand that self-care can also just be time to reflect. It's not always doing something. It's just reflecting. And then vision. I'm always envisioning the next thing. I'm a very creative person when it comes to just having visions and goals and ideas. So kind of getting lost in my visions also is something that I like to do to kind of just making sure that I'm good, having that self-care, self-awareness, that leads to self-management and whatnot.
Love it. All right, tell us what is next for you. What you got coming up?
All right, so what is next? First of all, let's talk about what is now. If you haven't you have to get this book. All right, Unbothered. All right, this is something that I wrote a couple years ago, right before the pandemic. You got to get this book. It's a 30-day journal. I believe it will be a blessing to you. It can be read at any time in your life. It talk about, I was just talking about reflecting, right? It's a journal with entries after every day. You can reflect on what those journal topics are, and it really will guide you through certain seasons. Some of the things that's in there is what I used to get through 2017 and 2018 of our lives, when Kim was diagnosed, when her parents transitioned, when I lost my uncle. And so it's really important. I call it the life book. So that's now, you can get that at Amazon.com. And also, just because you all are watching this, this is exclusive. Not too many people know about this. But I am working on a short story. It's a different kind of writing. It's not a self-help. It's not a 30-day. It's not, it's not one of those. So it's a different writing style, but it's giving me the opportunity to create these storylines in my head. And I have now, I've been putting them on paper, and I still have a ways to go, but that is what I'm currently working on. Not going to give you the name of it yet, because I don't want nobody to steal it. I'm not even going to give you the plot, because I don't want no one to steal it, but that's what I'm working on.
I love it. So that will be book number 5 for him, guys. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5. So all 4 of his books that are out right now, again, you can go on Amazon.com. Make sure that you are following him both on Facebook and on Instagram as L.T Willis, and on Instagram, lt.willis. Make sure that you're following him there. Also, if you want to get in contact with him, it's at L.T Willis, the number 2 at yahoo.com. He not only speaks, obviously, every week at church, preaches every week at church, but he also speaks at his other job, and really just pours into. So he is also a motivational speaker as well. So if you have an event that you want to have him inspire some folks, this is your guy. So I'm going to put it right back up there. Is at L.T Willis, the number 2 at yahoo.com. And again, make sure that you support him by going to Amazon.com as well. Also, you'll see him as a model soon on survivorscorner.net, because we will be having a photo shoot. He's already one of our models on 49rose.com. So that's one of the things that's is really a bonus of having a husband. You can just use him in whatever capacity that it is. Man, and one of it being a model.
I ain't seen a dime yet.
Oh, you get paid in other ways, such as food and others. Hallelujah. But listen, guys, I really enjoyed our time today. Really make sure that you follow Pastor L.T Willis in the various channels that he has. Make sure that you reshare this broadcast. Make sure that someone who has not watched it yet, that you share it to them, even if it's on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. We are on 3 of those channels. Please make sure that you share that with someone, and make sure that you're also subscribing also to the YouTube channel as well, both either my personal page or even on the Survivors Corner page as well, because we just want to continue to spread the wellness with everyone. So I'm excited, because next week on Tuesday, we have a few ladies. We have the Brushstrokes ladies that's going to come on, and they are licensed clinicians, mental health clinicians, to really just talk about mental health awareness as well. And some of them are also cancer survivors as well. So we keep bringing the heat onto the show. If you know anybody that wants to be interviewed, or knows anyone who just wants to be able to share this, please just make sure that they come on and share the show. I would love to have them. Dr. Smith said that this was fun, exciting, and enlightening. I love that. Do you have any last minute piece of advice that you want to encourage someone today?
Well, I want specifically for the men, and I want us to rethink living with cancer, or having a diagnosis with cancer, and taking that word and breaking it down, and then restructuring the meaning. Can, right, as in possibility, and then sir, replace the CER with SIR. and implying that you can, sir, you can get through
I
this,
love
you
that.
can do it. All things survival, and so that's really what I want to encourage the men with, that you can live with whatever it is that you are living and challenged to live with. But for everyone in general, I just think that survival is key, right? But we want to thrive. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is a wellness program. And I believe that just try and live your best life. Take care of yourself emotionally. Take care of yourself mentally.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a mental diagnosis, get a therapist. I tell people all the time, being a faith leader in the Christian area, you need Jesus and a therapist
Mm-hmm.
and a pastor. So make sure you have someone to talk to. You don't have to try and survive by yourself.
Yeah.
Community is everything. And I just think that, you got a person right here who's one of the strongest advocates that I know. So I would ask you all that if you know anyone that's living with cancer, been diagnosed with cancer, that may be refusing treatment or that may be discouraged in treatment, please get in contact with Kimberly Willis. Please remember that name. Get in contact with Kimberly Willis because she has been challenged on every single area of her life with cancer and grief at the same time. That is an absolute burden. And I believe as she has come through that and still working out of that, that she is qualified, and that she has the intellect and that she has the commitment to be able to help you come out of that situation or live through that moment. So that's what I would ask. That's what I would advise and recommend. But again, thank you for having me, man. This has been great
Absolutely.
on this Memorial Day. Now I'm ready to go eat some ribs.
Yes. So listen, guys, we're not going to hold you any longer. We know some of you are actually at work and you are having your lunch break with us, and we're grateful for that. And for those of us who are off, enjoy your potato salad, your ribs, your chicken, and whatever else that you have in today. So until next week, you guys have a blessed day. Take care.